We never drop one rice on the table. Whenever I go back my home, I see my son's shoes, one like this, one like this. One socks, not the socks. No discipline.
For more than 4 decades, Jackie Chan has been regarded as a global action icon. He performed his own dangerous stunts and dominated the box office with films like Rush Hour and Police Story, becoming one of the few Asian stars fully embraced by Hollywood. On screen, he is known for his optimistic smile and relentless resilience. But behind that public image lies decades of emotional wounds, a family history filled with secrets, a marriage born out of obligation, an infidelity scandal, a son who went to jail, and a daughter who grew up in poverty and publicly rejected him. Together, they form a story he once avoided confronting. "I was never a good husband or a good father," Jackie admitted. Now, in his 70s, he has chosen to reveal everything. And the truth behind this legendary figure is shocking enough to leave many stunned. Origins of the tragedy: a dark family past and a brutal childhood. Long before Jackie Chan became one of the most recognizable action stars in the world, the foundation of his life had already been shaped by secrecy, instability, and survival. His father, Charles Chan, lived a life far more dangerous than Jackie understood as a child. Historical records later revealed that Charles once worked as a spy for China's nationalist government during the Civil War. He was also believed to have ties to organized crime networks in Shanghai. His survival depended on silence, shifting identities, and never speaking openly about the past. Jackie's mother, Li Chan, carried her own hidden history. Before becoming a homemaker, she had reportedly moved within gambling circles and participated in opium smuggling. Like Charles, she buried those experiences completely, inside the home. The past was never discussed. For decades, Jackie believed his parents were ordinary people, hardened only by poverty and war. That belief collapsed in 2003 during the filming of the documentary Traces of the Dragon. As the project unfolded, he learned that his parents had lived lives filled with espionage, crime, and reinvention. He also discovered half-siblings he had never known existed. The revelation stunned him. Jackie later admitted the truth shattered everything he thought he understood about his identity. The people he trusted most suddenly felt unfamiliar, as if the ground beneath his childhood had disappeared. Growing up in a household built on secrecy has lasting consequences. When families hide pain instead of explaining it, children often learn to suppress emotions rather than express them. Stability becomes fragile. Trust becomes complicated, without realizing it. Jackie inherited this emotional distance, a trait that would later surface in his own relationships. If the silence at home formed the emotional backdrop of his early life, poverty defined its daily reality. Jackie Chan was born on April 7, 1954, in Hong Kong. At a time when his parents were struggling to survive financially, hospital fees pushed them into immediate debt. Some biographies recount that the couple once considered selling their newborn to a British doctor for about $250 just to cover medical costs. They ultimately kept the child, but the episode revealed how close the family lived to desperation. His early years unfolded in crowded housing where conflict was common. Jackie fought frequently as a boy, sometimes to defend himself, sometimes simply to avoid being seen as weak. Bullying was part of growing up, and physical toughness quickly became a necessity rather than a choice. At age 7, his parents made a decision that would permanently alter his life. They enrolled him in the China Drama Academy, a strict Peking opera school run by Master Yu Jim Yuen. Not long afterward, his parents relocated to Australia for work, leaving Jackie effectively raised within the institution. Life there resembled military training more than childhood education. Students practiced up to 19 hours a day. They trained in martial arts, acrobatics, singing, and acting under relentless supervision. Mistakes were punished physically. Flexibility drills forced children into painful stretches. Some were required to hold handstands for long periods. Others repeated movements until their muscles failed. Jackie would later summarize those years in simple terms. It was hell. Yet the environment forged the qualities that later made him famous. He learned discipline, endurance, and an unusual tolerance for pain. Fear became something to push through rather than retreat from. Complaining solved nothing. Persistence solved everything. But strength often develops alongside emotional restraint. The academy did not nurture vulnerability or teach children how to communicate feelings. Affection was rare. Obedience constant. Over time, Jackie absorbed a traditional hardline mentality: survive first, reflect later. This conditioning shaped the adult he would become. Because harsh discipline had defined his upbringing, he came to see emotional distance as normal. Work naturally took priority over personal life. Absence did not feel like abandonment if it served a larger goal. Many children who grow up without consistent emotional reassurance struggle to provide it as parents. Jackie mastered physical courage, but never fully learned emotional presence. Seen from this perspective, the so-called generational curse did not begin with his fame or personal mistakes. It began much earlier, with parents trained by chaos, a household built on silence, and a childhood where endurance mattered more than connection. The same traits that helped Jackie Chan conquer the film industry, resilience, toughness, and relentless focus, would quietly follow him into adulthood. And years later, those inherited survival habits would begin to fracture his own family in ways he never expected. Marriage and personal mistakes, the foundation of a family breakdown. By the early 1980s, Jackie Chan was no longer just a rising stunt performer. He had become one of Hong Kong cinema's most valuable stars. His schedule was relentless, his reputation growing, and his life increasingly revolved around film sets rather than personal relationships. It was during this upward surge that a private decision quietly reshaped his future. In 1982, Jackie secretly married Taiwanese actress Joan Lin in Los Angeles. The wedding was not driven by romance, but by urgency. Joan was pregnant with their son, J.C. Chan. The ceremony took place quickly, with minimal publicity, largely to protect Jackie's marketability at a time when studios preferred their male idols to appear unattached. Years later, Jackie described the pregnancy as an accident and admitted he felt unprepared for marriage. In his memoir, he wrote that he experienced the situation almost as if he were being pushed into adulthood before he understood what it required. Fatherhood, in particular, felt overwhelming. Yet when JC was born in December 1982, Jackie made an effort to embrace the role. He later recalled feeling a surge of excitement when he noticed how much the child resembled him. For a moment, the responsibility seemed manageable, even meaningful. That early enthusiasm did not last. As Jackie's career exploded with films such as Police Story, his physical risks increased alongside his fame. He suffered serious injuries performing his own stunts, including spinal trauma and skull fractures that required extended recovery. Work demanded constant travel. Weeks became months away from home. Gradually, absence became routine. Jackie has openly admitted that during these years he drank heavily and behaved recklessly. He drove at dangerous speeds, sometimes treating public roads like stunt courses. Nights often extended into early mornings with colleagues, while family life faded into the background. Joan, meanwhile, adapted to a quieter but heavier role. She stepped away from her own successful acting career to raise JC largely alone. Although the marriage remained intact on paper, the daily structure resembled that of a single-parent household. Success had brought Jackie wealth, but it had also amplified his detachment. As his income soared, so did his spending. He purchased expensive watches without hesitation and treated luxury items as disposable. In one widely retold story, he destroyed a high-end sports car simply because he was dissatisfied with it. Money had become easy to replace, relationships were harder to measure, and therefore easier to neglect. Temptation followed fame. Jackie later acknowledged that he engaged in multiple affairs during this period, often rationalizing them as part of celebrity culture. One mistress was reportedly saved in his phone under the name Number 9, a detail that reflected how compartmentalized his personal life had become. He once described being with her as feeling like entering paradise, a statement that revealed how far he had drifted from his marriage emotionally. The most damaging moment arrived in 1999 when his relationship with actress Elaine Ng became public. The scandal intensified after she gave birth to a daughter, Etta Ng Chok Lam. Media coverage spread rapidly across Asia, threatening both his reputation and his family's stability. Jackie responded with a public apology. He called the affair a terrible mistake. Yet in the same breath, he attempted to soften the wrongdoing by saying it was an error many men commit. The remark drew criticism and suggested he had not fully grasped the emotional damage involved. For Joan, the betrayal was profound, but not entirely surprising. Years of emotional distance had already weakened the marriage, rather than seeking public confrontation. She chose endurance, continuing to prioritize stability for their son. Her restraint preserved the family structure, but deepened the quiet loneliness within it. Jackie would later acknowledge that she showed remarkable tolerance during those years. His struggles with alcohol also produced moments he came to regret deeply. In one incident, he later recounted, a drunken argument escalated until he impulsively lifted young JC and hurled him onto a sofa. The child was not seriously injured, but the memory haunted Jackie. It forced him to confront how easily anger and intoxication could turn him into a danger inside his own home. Taken together, these choices carried lasting consequences. Trust, once fractured, rarely returns in its original form. Joan remained his wife, but the emotional gap between them widened permanently. JC grew up with a father who was globally admired, yet frequently absent, and Etta entered the world already positioned outside the boundaries of his official family. The tragedy was not a single event, it was a pattern. Each decision reinforced distance, until separation became the default state of his personal life. Ironically, the discipline that powered Jackie Chan's professional success could not prevent his private world from unraveling. Fame multiplied opportunity, but also magnified weakness. By the time he recognized the damage, the fractures within his family were no longer temporary strains. They were becoming permanent divides. Relationships with his children, neglect, failure, and permanent distance. If Jackie Chan's marriage revealed emotional distance, his relationships with his children exposed the deepest consequences of that pattern. Fatherhood, which began unexpectedly, would become one of the most complicated chapters of his life. J.C. Chan, growing up without a present. Father J.C. Chan was born into privilege, but not into daily paternal care. During J.C.'s childhood, Jackie Chan was often filming overseas, managing injuries, or promoting movies. Their interactions were irregular and sometimes brief. Jackie later admitted that he would occasionally return home late at night, glance at his sleeping son, and leave again before morning. Material support was never the issue. Emotional presence was. As JC entered adulthood, he chose to pursue a career in entertainment, a path almost inevitable for the son of one of Asia's biggest stars. Yet the decision carried immediate pressure. Audiences and producers compared him to his father before he had the chance to define himself. The label Nepo Baby followed quickly. In 2004, JC released his debut music album. Expectations were high because of his surname, but sales disappointed. Critics described the project as forgettable, and the public response was lukewarm. Acting did not bring relief. His roles in The Twins Effect 2 and later in 1911, a historical film he shared with his father, failed to generate strong box office returns. Instead of stepping out of Jackie's shadow, he appeared trapped beneath it. Observers often noted a lack of urgency in his career. Some interpreted it as insufficient discipline. Others saw a young man overwhelmed by expectations he never chose. The crisis arrived in 2014. Beijing police detained JC after discovering more than 100 grams of marijuana inside his apartment. He was formally charged with harboring drug users and eventually sentenced to 6 months in prison. The scandal carried particular irony. Jackie Chan had been serving as a public anti-drug ambassador in China. The contradiction intensified media scrutiny and public embarrassment. Jackie responded with unusual firmness. He issued a statement declaring himself angry and ashamed, and emphasized that his son must accept legal responsibility. Behind the scenes, he refused to use his influence to reduce the sentence, for perhaps the first time. He chose principle over protection. JC later described the prison experience as transformative, a forced confrontation with consequences. Whether it permanently reshaped his life remains debated, but the episode marked a turning point in how the public perceived both father and son. Not long afterward, Jackie made another striking declaration. He would not automatically pass his fortune, estimated between $400 million and $500 million, to JC. His reasoning was blunt. If he is capable, he can make his own money. If not, he will only waste mine. The statement reflected a philosophy rooted in Jackie's own harsh upbringing. Self-reliance mattered more than inheritance. Yet critics questioned whether discipline without earlier emotional guidance was enough. JC had grown up with financial security but limited paternal mentorship. He had access to opportunity but lacked consistent direction. In many ways, his struggle mirrored a familiar generational pattern. Strength was expected, but support was inconsistent. Attempting to escape his father's immense shadow, JC instead collided with it, repeatedly. The tragedy was not simply professional failure, it was the visible outcome of a relationship that never fully developed. Etta Ng, rejection, poverty, and a public break. If JC's story reflected distance, the life of Etta Ng Chok Lam revealed something closer to absence. Born in 1999 after Jackie's affair with Elaine, Angren Etta entered the world already surrounded by controversy. Jackie publicly acknowledged the relationship as a mistake, but chose not to take an active role in the child's upbringing. Financial and emotional support remained minimal, and father and daughter never built a relationship. Over time, the separation hardened into identity. As a young adult, Etta stated openly, "He is not my father." The remark was less emotional than factual, a reflection of lived reality rather than rebellion. Her adulthood has been marked by instability after relocating to Canada. Reports emerged in 2022 that she had been seen waiting in line at a charity center for free food. Videos circulated online, prompting renewed scrutiny of Jackie's absence. Around the same period, Etta spoke publicly about struggles with mental health, adding another layer of concern. Contact with her half-brother JC has also been virtually non-existent. The siblings grew up in separate worlds, connected only by DNA and media headlines. Elaine Ng, once a prominent actress herself, faced financial and professional challenges as well, further narrowing the support system around her daughter. For many observers, this relationship represents the most painful dimension of Jackie Chan's private life. Unlike JC, who at least experienced partial involvement from his father, Etta grew up without it entirely. The contrast is stark. A global superstar known for generosity in philanthropy, yet emotionally absent from one of his own children. This is where the idea of a generational curse appears most visible. Jackie, raised in emotional austerity, seemed unable or unwilling to rewrite the pattern when given the chance. Survival habits learned in childhood may have helped him endure hardship, but they did not teach him how to nurture connection. By the time reflection arrived, the distance had already solidified. Today, the separation between Jackie Chan and his daughter is not defined by conflict, but by silence. A silence echoing the hidden histories of the family that came before him. Recent updates, 2025 to 2026. New films, legacy, and late regret. Entering his 70s. Jackie Chan remains professionally active, but the tone of his work has begun to shift. Instead of relying purely on action and spectacle, his recent projects increasingly explore aging, memory, and fractured family bonds, themes that closely mirror the private struggles that have followed him for decades. One of the clearest examples is the 2026 film Unexpected Family. In the movie, Jackie portrays an elderly man living with Alzheimer's disease who mistakenly believes a stranger is his child. The story centers on confusion, emotional longing, and the fear of losing connection with loved ones. Unlike the fearless heroes he once played, this character is vulnerable, dependent, and haunted by fading memories. The film premiered in China on January 1st, 2026, before expanding to theaters in the United States and Canada on February 6, 2026. Critics quickly noticed the emotional weight of the role. Some observers suggested that the project felt unusually personal, as if it drew from unresolved feelings about fatherhood and distance. While Jackie never confirmed a direct autobiographical link, the parallels were difficult to ignore. Around the same period, reports surfaced that Jackie had recorded what many described as a farewell song, with instructions that it be released only after his death. The gesture carried symbolic weight. It hinted at an awareness of mortality and reflected the losses that often accompany old age. Friends passing away, colleagues retiring, and the gradual narrowing of one's inner circle. At the film's promotional events, Jackie spoke candidly about this stage of life. He acknowledged that he was intentionally diversifying his roles, explaining that he wanted to challenge himself rather than repeat past formulas. Aging, he suggested, was not something to fight, but something to face directly. Such comments revealed a quieter, more reflective public figure, far removed from the daredevil who once leaped between skyscrapers. Yet professional evolution does not automatically repair personal history, despite the introspective roles and symbolic projects. The fundamental reality remains unchanged. His relationships with his children are still marked by distance. Time has given him perspective, but it has not restored what was never fully built. In many ways, these late career choices resemble acts of reflection rather than correction. Cinema offers him a space to explore regret safely, to portray fathers searching for connection, and to confront emotional themes he once avoided. Real life, however, does not provide retakes. The contrast is striking. On screen, Jackie Chan now searches for family. Off screen, the separation persists. Success continues. Recognition endures. But beneath the longevity of his career lies a quieter truth, that some realizations arrive too late to rewrite the past. Conclusion, fame, legacy, and the cost of emotional distance. The life of Jackie Chan illustrates a paradox that has followed many global icons. Extraordinary professional triumph paired with deep personal fracture. From the hidden past of his parents to the emotional austerity of his childhood. The foundation of his life was shaped by survival rather than openness. As an adult, those inherited patterns resurfaced, not through deliberate cruelty, but through absence, secrecy, and misplaced priorities. His career delivered historic success. His films crossed continents. His name became synonymous with fearless entertainment. And his wealth secured a legacy few performers ever achieve. Yet, inside his private world, the outcome looked very different. A marriage tested by betrayal, endured, but never fully healed. One son grew up under overwhelming expectations and public scandal. One daughter matured almost entirely outside his orbit, seen together. These chapters form what many describe as a generational curse. Silence led to distance. Distance allowed mistakes. Mistakes hardened into permanent separation. To Jackie's credit, self-awareness eventually emerged. He has publicly admitted his failures as a husband and father, and after J.C. Chan's imprisonment, he appeared more willing to guide than simply provide, but recognition arrived late, at a stage when relationships are far harder to rebuild than careers. His reflections also reveal a changing perspective on fame itself. Jackie once spoke admiringly of Will Smith, particularly the visible closeness within Smith's family. Over time, that comparison has reportedly taken on new meaning, underscoring what professional achievement cannot guarantee: emotional presence. The central lesson is difficult but clear. Wealth can create comfort. Recognition can secure immortality in popular culture. Neither can replace daily connection inside a family. Now, as Jackie moves through his later years, an unresolved question remains. Can time still allow reconciliation? Or have decades of distance already written the final chapter? His story ultimately invites a broader reflection, not about celebrity, but about balance. Success may elevate a person in the eyes of the world, yet the relationships neglected along the way often determine whether that success feels complete.